It was just another day for Ethan. He had woken up early, grabbed his usual cup of coffee, and got to work. The world outside was bustling as usual, with cars zooming past, people walking by in a hurry, and the noises of the city filling the air. Little did he know, his life was about to be turned upside down. The events that would follow would be something he could never have imagined in his wildest dreams. Ethan worked as an accountant in a small firm on the edge of the city. His, life was routine, quiet, and predictable, until the day a man in a dark suit walked into the office, changing everything. At first, Ethan thought nothing of it. The man was dressed in formal attire, carrying a briefcase, just like anyone who might come to do business with the company. However, the man didn't go to anyone in the office or ask about any numbers or contracts. Instead, he walked straight up to Ethan, offering a handshake that felt colder than any he had ever experienced. "Ethan Miller?" the man asked, his voice firm yet calm. "Yes, that's me," Ethan replied, slightly confused. He had no idea who this man was or why he was looking for him. "I have a proposal for you," the man said, as if it were the most casual thing in the world. But there was something about his tone that made Ethan uneasy. "I'm listening," Ethan said, trying to maintain his composure. He couldn't help but feel that something wasn't quite right. The man then slid a small, elegant envelope across the desk. It looked ordinary enough, but Ethan felt a strange sense of foreboding as he picked it up. He hesitated before opening it, his curiosity overpowering his instinct to avoid whatever this was. Inside the envelope was a letter with elegant handwriting, and it read, "By the decree of the royal family of Viria, we are pleased to offer you an extraordinary opportunity. You have been chosen to marry Princess Ilara of Viria. This union is essential for maintaining peace between our worlds, and your presence is requested immediately." Ethan blinked and rubbed his eyes, thinking it was some kind of joke. Was this a prank? But when he looked back at the man in front of him, the expression on his face was deadly serious. "You've got to be kidding me," Ethan finally managed to say, laughing nervously. "What is this, a joke?" The man didn't laugh. He just stared at Ethan with cold eyes, as if waiting for him to fully comprehend the gravity of the situation. "It is not a joke," the man said, his voice devoid of any emotion. "I am here on behalf of the royal family of Viria. The proposal is real, and you are expected to marry the princess. This is not a request, but an order. You will comply. If you refuse, there will be consequences that you will not be able to escape." Ethan's mind raced, trying to process the absurdity of the situation. He felt like he was trapped in some science fiction story. His heart raced, and his palms became sweaty. There was no way this could be real. A royal family, an arranged marriage with an alien princess. It all sounded like something out of a bad movie. "Listen, I don't know what kind of sick game you're playing, but I'm not interested," Ethan said, shaking his head, trying to dismiss the whole thing as a misunderstanding. The man didn't react. He simply reached into his briefcase and pulled out a holographic device, placing it on the desk. The device hummed to life, casting a 3D projection of a beautiful alien world, lush forests, towering structures, and a sky that shimmered with colors Ethan had never seen before. A towering figure appeared next, and Ethan gasped as he saw her. Woman in the projection was stunning. She wore an intricate crown and golden armor that glimmered in the alien sunlight. Her piercing eyes seemed to look directly at him, and for a moment he felt as though she could see into his soul. This was Princess Ilara of Viria, and she was even more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. "This is real," the man said, his voice cutting through the silence. "You are the chosen one, Ethan. The princess has chosen you, and you are the only one who can fulfill this vital role. The Viran royal family has selected you to marry her for the survival of both our worlds. This is not a request. It's an obligation." Ethan felt his stomach turn. He had always wanted to live a life of adventure, but this was beyond anything he had ever thought possible. A part of him wanted to run to escape, but another part of him knew he couldn't. The man was serious, and the hologram of the princess only confirmed the unbelievable nature of what he was being told. But Why me? Ethan asked, still struggling to make sense of it all. You were chosen because of your unique genetic compatibility with the princess, the man explained. Your bloodline has been identified as the perfect match to ensure peace between our two planets. This marriage will unite our people and bring stability to both worlds. It is an honor, Ethan, and it is one that you will fulfill. Ethan's head spun. He was no hero. He was just an average guy with a boring job. How could he possibly be the chosen one? And yet, the reality of the situation was undeniable. He had no choice. As the man left him with the heavy burden of the proposal, Ethan sat there staring at the holographic image of Princess Ilara. He wondered what kind of life awaited him on an alien planet, married to someone he had never met, in a world he couldn't even begin to understand. One thing was certain. His life would never be the same again. Ethan had never imagined that one day he would find himself traveling to an alien planet, let alone being forced into a marriage with an alien princess. Yet here he was, aboard a sleek, futuristic spacecraft, zooming through the cosmos at unimaginable speeds. The hum of the engines was the only sound that broke the silence, and as he looked out of the small porthole, all he could see was the endless expanse of space stretching far beyond the horizon. The reality of the situation was still sinking in, and Ethan felt a constant pressure building in his chest. He had been taken from Earth against his will, transported to a foreign world that defied his understanding of everything he thought he knew. The mysterious man who had come to his office had explained the necessity of the marriage and the significance of his role, but it didn't make it any easier to accept. He had no choice but to comply. What could he do? Refuse and risk angering a powerful alien family that could end his life with a flick of a finger? Ethan didn't know, but he did know one thing. He was in way over his head. As the ship descended through the alien planet's atmosphere, Ethan's heart raced in his chest. The sight below him was nothing short of breathtaking. The planet's surface was a blend of vibrant green forests, vast oceans, and towering mountain ranges that shimmered under the twin suns hanging in the sky. Massive cities filled with intricate spires and glowing lights stood as a testament to the advanced civilization that called this place home. The ship touched down in a grand open area that looked like a palace courtyard. As the hatch opened, a blast of warm air greeted Ethan. The smell was unlike anything he had ever encountered. A mix of fresh flowers, strange spices, and the crispness of a world untouched by Earth's pollution. The moment he stepped onto the surface, he was immediately surrounded by a group of regal-looking figures, all of them wearing golden armor. They stood tall and imposing, their faces covered by visors that reflected the light from the suns. Despite their intimidating appearance, there was a sense of order and discipline in their movements. An older man, dressed in even more elaborate armor than the rest, approached him with a deep bow. Ethan recognized him as one of the royal guards, someone who had been assigned to watch over him during his stay. His stern face gave nothing away, but the respect in his manner was clear. "You will be escorted to the palace," the man said, his voice firm and unwavering. "The princess is waiting for you." Ethan nodded silently, not sure what to say. He was still processing everything that had happened, the proposal, the journey, the strange new world he now found himself in. It felt like a dream, but the reality of the situation was too clear to ignore. As they walked through the palace grounds, Ethan couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. The architecture here was unlike anything he had ever seen. Massive pillars that seemed to defy gravity, shining crystal structures that looked like they had been grown rather than built, and statues of ancient alien gods that towered above him. The palace was a vast, sprawling complex with wide hallways that seemed to stretch on forever, filled with intricate carvings and glowing symbols. The air buzzed with a strange energy, and Ethan felt like he was walking in a world that had been around for centuries, where history, power, and mystery all collided in a perfect storm of awe-inspiring beauty. The guard led him through a set of massive doors that opened into a large, ornate hall. At the far end of the room, on a raised platform, sat the figure of the princess, Princess Ilara. Her long, platinum blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders, and she wore a flowing gown of golden silk that shimmered as she moved. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but there was a coldness to her expression that made Ethan hesitate. This was the woman he was supposed to marry. As he stood there, his mind racing, he felt the weight of her gaze. She was watching him with those piercing blue eyes, her expression unreadable. There was no warmth in her stare, only an air of regality, a reminder of the power that surrounded her. Ethan had been told that she was a princess, but now, standing in front of her, he realized just how different their worlds were. The silence between them stretched on, both of them seemingly waiting for the other to speak. Finally, it was Princess Alara who broke the silence. "You must be Ethan," she said, her voice calm, but with a certain edge to it. "I am Princess Alara of Viria, and as you are aware, you are here because of our family's agreement." Ethan nodded, still unsure of what to say. The situation was surreal, and he found himself at a loss for words. This wasn't the life he had imagined for himself. He had always wanted something more: adventure, excitement, a life that would take him beyond the mundane. But this felt like a nightmare. "I know this is difficult for you," Alara continued, her tone softening ever so slightly. "But understand that this marriage is not just a matter of my family's wishes. It is the only way to ensure peace between our two worlds. If we do not unite, the consequences will be catastrophic for both Viria and your planet." Ethan wanted to argue, to fight back, but the words caught in his throat. How could he refuse? He was being forced into a marriage, a political arrangement that had been decided for him without his consent. He had no choice, no say in the matter. And yet, something about the way she spoke, almost like she was trapped in this too, made him pause. He glanced around the room at the guards and servants who moved about the palace as if nothing was out of the ordinary. They were all part of a system that had existed for centuries, and Ethan was nothing more than a cog in the machine. But that didn't mean he had to accept it without question. As the silence grew between them, Ethan's mind swirled with 1,000 thoughts. Could he really go through with this? Could he marry a woman he didn't even know on a planet he had never heard of, just to fulfill an arrangement he had no part in? And why did it feel like the princess, too, was hiding something? Something that could change everything? The suspense grew, and Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead would be more than just a marriage. It would be a journey into the unknown, full of challenges, danger, and a truth that neither of them could have predicted. The days that followed were a blur of formality, strange customs, and strange faces. Ethan felt like a visitor in someone else's world, disconnected, out of place, and overwhelmed by the vast differences between Earth and Viria. Every interaction felt alien, every touch, every glance, a reminder that he was no longer in his own home. The palace, though magnificent, was cold, filled with strange rules and expectations that he couldn't quite understand. Princess Alara kept her distance, only meeting him in passing. Their interactions were brief, polite, and professional, with an air of formality that made it impossible for Ethan to form any real connection with her. She was always surrounded by her advisors and guards, never truly alone. And the more he observed her, the more he began to realize that there was something hidden beneath her calm and regal exterior. She was not the cold, distant princess he had imagined, but someone far more complex, caught in a web of politics and duty that neither of them had chosen. One afternoon, as Ethan wandered through the palace gardens, his mind still swirling with questions, he was summoned to the royal chambers. The invitation came through a messenger, a young servant who led him through the long, winding corridors of the palace. The air was thick with anticipation, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. When he arrived at the princess's chambers, he was surprised to see Alara standing by the large window, staring out at the twin suns setting on the horizon. Her posture was tense, and there was a hint of frustration in her stance. The moment he stepped into the room, she turned to face him, her usual stoic expression softening. "Ethan," she began, her voice quieter than usual, almost hesitant. There are things I need to tell you, things that you don't know. Ethan raised an eyebrow, confused by her sudden change in tone. What do you mean? Ilara motioned for him to sit, and he did, his curiosity piqued. She sat across from him, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on the floor as if she were struggling to find the right words. You came here thinking that this marriage was a political arrangement, she started, her voice barely above a whisper, that it was something my family decided and that you were just a pawn in a larger game. But the truth is, she hesitated, taking a deep breath, as if steeling herself for what she was about to say. The truth is, I never wanted this. I never chose you, and I certainly didn't choose this life. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. What are you talking about? He asked, unable to hide his shock. Then why am I here? Why did they bring me to this planet? Ilara met his gaze for the first time in what felt like days, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and sadness. Because I didn't have a choice. My family chose you, but not because of some political advantage. She paused, her voice trembling as she spoke. They chose you because your bloodline holds the key to saving my world. Ethan was stunned. What do you mean? What's so special about my bloodline? Ilara stood up and walked to a small, intricately carved table by the window. She picked up a small holographic device and activated it, projecting a map of the planet Viria and its surrounding moons. There were numerous markings on the map, each one highlighting key locations and strategic points. This planet has been under threat for centuries, Ilara explained, her voice steady now, but filled with an undeniable urgency. A war is brewing in the galaxy, and Viria is in the middle of it. Our enemies have been hunting for a way to destroy us, to wipe us off the map. But there is a secret, a power hidden deep within our royal bloodline that can protect us. She paused and turned to face Ethan, her gaze intense. Your ancestors were once part of an alliance with Viria. Long ago, your people and mine worked together to protect the galaxy from a common threat. But the alliance broke apart. And your people, your ancestors abandoned us. Ethan's mind raced as he tried to make sense of her words. So what does this have to do with me? Ilara took a deep breath and looked at him, her face pained. It's you, Ethan. Your DNA matches the ancient genetic markers that were designed to activate the power. You are the key to unlocking it, something my family never told you. Ethan was speechless. He had always thought he was just an ordinary guy. Never in his wildest dreams did he imagine that his bloodline held the fate of an entire planet. But why me? He asked, his voice cracking with disbelief. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? I couldn't, she replied softly, because I knew how you would react. I knew you would never agree to this, but I'm trapped in a role I didn't choose and I can't do this alone. I need your help, Ethan. If we don't activate the power soon, Viria will fall and everything we've worked for will be destroyed. Ethan felt a rush of emotions flood over him. Anger, confusion, fear. He had been dragged into this world, this marriage, under false pretenses. The woman he was supposed to marry, the princess he had been told was his duty, was just as trapped as he was. This wasn't just about love or politics. It was about survival. Ilara looked at him, her eyes filled with vulnerability. I know this is a lot to take in and I know you don't trust me, but we don't have a choice. The war is coming. The enemy is closing in, and we need you to help us stop it. You are the only one who can help me save my people, Ethan. Please, help me. The weight of the situation hit Ethan like a tidal wave. He had never asked for any of this. But in that moment, as he looked into Ilara's eyes, he understood that his life, his very existence, had just become part of something much larger than himself. A part of him wanted to run, to escape, to forget this whole twisted situation. But another part, the part that had always longed for something more than a mundane existence, knew that he couldn't walk away. The fate of a planet rested on his shoulders, and the twist, this unexpected revelation, had just changed everything. Ethan stood at the edge of the palace balcony, gazing out over the alien landscape. The twin suns were setting in the distance, casting long shadows over the sprawling city below. The palace, a marvel of alien architecture, felt like both a prison and a sanctuary, trapping him in a world he never wanted to be part of. His mind was still reeling from the revelation, the truth about his bloodline, the power hidden in his DNA, and the fate of an entire planet hanging in the balance. For days he had wrestled with his emotions, struggling to accept the weight of the responsibility that had been thrust upon him. The princess, Ilara, had told him that the key to saving her world lay in his hands. But what did that mean? Could he really play a part in saving an entire civilization? Could he do it without losing himself in the process? The war that had been brewing for centuries was now on the verge of breaking out. The enemy was closing in, and every moment they waited only brought them closer to destruction. Ilara had begged him for help, but Ethan still didn't know if he was ready to make the sacrifice that might be necessary. He felt a presence behind him, and when he turned, he saw Ilara standing in the doorway, her face soft with concern. Her golden gown shimmered in the fading light, and for a moment, she seemed to glow with an otherworldly beauty. But beneath that beauty, Ethan could see the weight of responsibility that burdened her. She was as trapped as he was, caught in a role she never chose, forced to make impossible decisions for the good of her people. "Ilara," Ethan said softly, his voice filled with uncertainty. "I don't know if I can do this. I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who happened to get pulled into something I don't understand. How can I save your planet? How can I be the one to make a difference?" Ilara stepped forward, her eyes filled with understanding. She reached out and took his hand in hers, her grip strong yet gentle. "You are more than just a man from Earth, Ethan. You are the key to saving this world, whether you believe it or not. Your bloodline carries the power that can protect us. But it's not just the power in your veins. It's the strength of your heart, your courage to do what others cannot. You've already proven that by standing by me, even when everything seemed impossible." Ethan looked into her eyes, seeing the sincerity and trust in her gaze. It was the first time since arriving on this alien planet that he felt a connection, genuine and unbreakable. This wasn't just about politics or duty anymore. It was about something deeper, something he hadn't fully realized until now. The quiet hum of the palace's inner workings seemed to fade away as Ethan took a deep breath, looking at the woman who had been forced into this role, just as he had. "What do I have to do?" he asked, his voice steady now, filled with resolve. Ilara smiled faintly, her expression softening as she spoke. "The power within you can only be unlocked through the ancient ceremony that has been passed down through generations. But it comes at a price. The ceremony requires a bond, an emotional and spiritual connection that will merge your essence with the energy of the planet itself. The cost is high. You will have to give up part of yourself to save us. Your connection with Viria will be permanent, and you will never be able to return to Earth." Ethan's heart sank. He had known that this was never going to be easy, but he hadn't realized just how much he would have to give up. The idea of leaving everything behind, the people he knew, the life he had built, was terrifying. But then he looked at Ilara, standing before him with such vulnerability and strength. She too was making a sacrifice, doing everything she could to protect her world. In that moment, Ethan knew what he had to do. He had come here not just for himself, but for her, and for the entire planet. The stakes were too high, and the cost, though painful, was necessary. "I'll do it," Ethan said, his voice filled with a newfound strength. "I'll stay. I'll help you save your world, but we do this together." Ilara's eyes softened, a mixture of relief and gratitude crossing her features. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "You don't know how much this means to me, to all of us." With that, the two of them walked, hand in hand, to the center of the palace, where the ancient ceremony would take place. The royal advisors and guardians gathered around them, silent and watchful as the ritual began. The room filled with an ethereal light, and the air seemed to hum with energy. Ethan felt a strange pull, as if the very fabric of the planet was drawing him in, connecting him to its heart. As the ceremony progressed, Ethan could feel the energy of the planet coursing through his veins. It was a powerful force, unlike anything he had ever felt before. His connection with Alara deepened and he felt his essence merging with the life force of Viria. It was as if time itself stood still. He felt his body and soul becoming one with the planet, and in that moment, he understood the depth of what he was sacrificing. The energy began to stabilize, and with a final surge, Ethan felt the power inside him settle. The ceremony was complete. He had unlocked the ancient power, and Viria's future was secured. As the light dimmed and the room returned to normal, Ethan looked at Alara, his eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and peace. The cost had been high, but it had been worth it. Viria was safe, and so was she. "Alara," Ethan said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "We did it. We saved your planet." Alara smiled, her eyes filled with tears. "We did it," she whispered back, her voice filled with awe and gratitude. The two of them stood there, hand in hand, knowing that their journey was far from over. The sacrifice had been made, but in its wake a new beginning had emerged, a beginning of hope, love, and the promise of a future built on the strength of their bond. And as they looked out at the beautiful world they had saved, they knew that, together, they could face anything the universe had in store for them. The story of Ethan and Alara had come full circle. What started as an unlikely marriage had transformed into a story of sacrifice, courage, and the unbreakable bond between two souls from different worlds. Their love was the ultimate triumph, not just for them, but for the future of both their planets.